we are seeing green all over the board in the TradFi markets. Banks are leading the way. Tech not too far behind. Absolutely wild out there, hitting levels that we haven't seen since early 2022, late 2021. It's crazy. We're going to get into all of that, the latest around earnings, around retail sales, how that's impacting the markets. Before we get going, hit that like button, subscribe to our channel. Nothing Kevin or I say is financial advice. We are not financial advisors. We're a few guys who love following the markets, but please, I'm begging you, do your own research before making any buys or sells. Kev, data this morning around the economy wasn't great. We're hearing differently from the banks because we can definitely trust them. What are you looking at as we begin, as we close out the day on Tuesday? More strong earnings this morning. We got big earnings tomorrow as well. What is catching your eye?
Yeah, I mean, we got some really conflicting data today, right? Yeah, consumer confidence in the economy looks pretty wasn't so great. So the DXY definitely pumped earlier in the day. Now we're seeing it pull back a little bit. Maybe that's because of some of the bank earnings. Stocks are obviously doing pretty damn well today. I'm keeping an eye on the smaller regional banks. I think a lot of those are still what I'm keeping most of my focus on. I was telling you before the show, it should have came as no surprise that some of these bigger banks did really well. I think a lot of people are still terrified of keeping their money in these regional banks. Again, with these banks are the ones that were giving up pretty good interest rates to a lot of people that were holding, their money there. Now we're starting to see some of these bigger banks offer some better interest rates. So obviously they're going to do pretty well. I think people also think that, they're too big to fail. That's one thing I'm not surprised by looking at the banks. I thought there maybe be a little bit worse numbers for Bank of America compared to JP Morgan, but end of the day, they performed better than they were expecting. So nothing crazy, but I'm definitely keeping an eye on more of the earnings this week. We're seeing a lot of stocks pump into their earnings tomorrow, so we'll take a look at those too. But for the most part, it's just it's a green day. I was just about to make a Green Day reference, but I won't. But it's a green day.
Man.
Nothing I can do.
It is a green day. Randy, good to see you. Ace, as always, it's a pleasure. Let's get into some of the numbers. The real data point we had this morning was around U.S. retail sales, up 0.2%. That is under the expectation of 0.5%. So the question has to be, are consumers running out of money and cutting back on discretionary spending? We talked about Swiftonomics yesterday and how much money Taylor Swift is producing. Well, that money has to come from somewhere. And if you're paying, $1,200 to $2,000 for a ticket to a Taylor Swift show, you're going to have to make cuts in other places. And I think we're seeing that. It's not just Taylor, obviously, but are consumers running out of disposable income? I think the answer is yes.
Yeah.
Are we going to begin to see the impact of that? Banking is one thing. Like, there's always going to be, people are going to need banks. It's just how it is. But are we about to see the impact of this, on the retail side in other businesses? Are we going to see people cutting back on, are people in a lower economic class be cutting back on something like the more middle tier goods they buy? Are the upper class going to have to start cutting back as well? That's the question you have to kind of look at, and who is most likely to be impacted by it. So that is definitely something to keep in mind. On the banking side, I mean, we saw Morgan Stanley is having another nice day, but their earnings aren't that great. It's mainly based off of talk from the C-level executives, which, of course they're going to say good things. We expect them to say that everything's shit.
Exactly.
When you have Morgan Stanley, they beat on revenue. However, profit was down 13%. That is due to a couple things, primarily weaker trading results, and they also paid out severance of $308 million in Q2 as a result of layoffs. Now, markets are going to price that as, okay, that's less liability on the balance sheet moving forward, but there's also a reason that they had to cut that many jobs. They're probably they may say that the forecast looks good ahead, but if that was the case, would they really be cutting this many people right now? I don't know. That's not, not something that I can really say for certain, but I can kind of read between the lines. Their wealth management revenue did grow on the year, and they brought in $90 billion in new client assets, which is strong numbers. But the majority of what is moving the market today is just the fact that the speak from the CEO was yeah, we face strong headwinds. Fucking, put that on your goddamn bingo card. But the strong headwinds in early Q2, but the economy is looking resilient with a strong job market, maybe, decreased growth ahead, blah, blah, blah. That's what is mainly leading this almost 6.5% gain for Morgan Stanley today. If we look at Bank of America, they're up about a little over 4%. Schwab up 12%. And this was, if you look back at their monthly chart, they got crushed in March because they were one of the bigger financial institutions that people were concerned about, with contagion risk, with not having enough deposits and being a potential run on assets there. That has bounced back very well since that peak bottom. I think one thing we can learn from this is, the old adage of, sell when people are greedy and buy when people are fearful is true. Like if you would have bought Schwab at peak fear, because let's be honest, what were the odds of Schwab really going under, right? Like they've been around for how long? They have how much protection? The odds of them going under could not have been very good. However, they saw an absolute shit kicking back in March. So once again, when people are at peak fear, that level of capitulation, it's not a bad time to be buying.
Yeah, not at all. I mean, obviously they had a pretty good run since then, right? So it's seeing some of these institutions do pretty well here. The Morgan Stanley one's the one that I'm kind of baffled by, because again, Morgan Stanley about a week and a half ago said that the S&P is probably going for all-time highs by the end of this year. Is that true? I really don't know. I can't forecast exactly what the S&P is going to do. Clearly, I've been, it's gone beyond the point of which I thought it would go. A lot of these have, but at the same time, laying off as many people as they have, and we're seeing tons of other companies lay people off. So but then their sentiment towards the market and being, exposed to the market seems extremely bullish, or at least to the point where it's like, having some exposure is better than having no exposure. I think that's what a lot of people are, getting at the point at with some of these banks. I wanted to bring up something that Ace had brought up too. The mid-small banks hold majority of CRE loans. A lot are be defaulting soon. Yeah, again, a lot of those are probably going to come to a head in the next year or so. That's one thing that we have to keep an eye on. But also another thing that I've been seeing a lot of, and I think that a lot of people are underestimating, is about 2 years ago we got news that Evergrande, which was a huge company in China building tons of commercial real estate properties. People don't realize how much exposure there is in the United States from a lot of these banks and other companies there is to Evergrande. They've lost $85 billion, I believe, in the past 2 quarters. So, I mean, this is not great. And we see that China's economy is definitely slowing. And we're also seeing that the youth unemployment rate in China is also going up. So if we're seeing, global recession, if we are saying it's global recession, the U.S. is obviously doing better than other countries based on the data and all the BS that we're being fed. Don't forget that we do have exposure to other markets in the world, and this is definitely going to have an effect on other things in the stock market. So Evergrande's just one thing that was considered a black swan about 2 years ago. But again, I haven't heard anything from it until about the past 2-3 weeks, and now it's starting to be something that's recurring. And always keep an eye on that, and that affects everything from the top down.
Yeah, I saw some headlines about that today as well. That was a really bad. I mean, the market just got absolutely crushed when news of that came out.
Oh yeah.
So
it's not over.
Let's see. No, it's not over. Let's see what happens moving forward. If we look at tech as well, another strong day for the Nasdaq, up over 1%. Closing in at getting closer and closer to 16,000. Just absolutely continuing to cook. If we look at it on, I have the chart in front of me right now. It's just been on the daily, on the weekly, on the monthly. Everything's overbought. Everything is overbought. It's overbought. Yeah, daily, weekly, monthly, across the board. If we look at a lot of these AI stocks having another strong day, Nvidia up another $13 a share. It's going to close at an all-time high. Microsoft is going to close at an all-time high, up over $18 a share today. And this is on the back of news from them around AI and their search engine Bing. Who the fuck uses Bing? Have you ever used Bing? No. So this excitement around it, this is just
fucking Bing. I can't wait to fucking use Bing. Right after this, fucking Bing. Get shirts that say fucking Bing.
Yeah, it just feels very bubblish. And then I'm just baffled at Netflix right now.
Oh, I told you it was gonna happen.
Netflix is up 5% today, $22 a share. Current stock price $4.72. You could have last year this time, Netflix was down to $174. I mean, it took. I get it that it was oversold. It was oversold like a motherfucker. If you look at the monthly, the red line that Netflix took from November of 21 down to March of 22, I mean, it was brutal. But good Lord, this is quite the rebound. There's a writer's strike going on. I guess they're going to use AI to write any of their new stuff. Like, I really like the new quarterbacks show that came out on Netflix with Patrick Mahomes, Kirk Cousins, and Marcus Mariota. But I don't think it's that great that's going to justify this. But it's still crazy. They have earnings tomorrow. It's got to be like, it's so, like, on the monthly, it is 100. It's at 100. Like, that's the overbought level it's at. It's crazy. And we've also seen that it can stay there for a while. So it wouldn't surprise me if that was the case here. But I just don't know in what world, like, all-time high on Netflix is like 689.
I got to pull it up, man. This chart's just too amazing. We talked about this a while back, right?
It's crazy.
I said that Netflix is going to eat shit at some point. It has to. I think this is maybe the one out of them all that's gonna. But look where we are currently. We're right here at this green line. So we're at about $472. There is this massive gap that we put in back in January of 2022, where it just dropped from 506 down to 456. So we're in this gap area right now, right? I was anticipating that this would go to about $500, at least fill most of this gap, if not all of it. And I think we're getting earnings tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken. Netflix and Tesla earnings are tomorrow.
Yep.
So seeing this push into it, not too much of a surprise here. You might get maybe Netflix comes back very similar to how retail sales are, right? It's still positive growth. However, it's not as high as they anticipated. Something similar like that could easily happen. I do think that is a sign. The retail sales, this data that we got today, is a very good sign of what's going on right now with a lot of consumers and subscriptions. I wouldn't be surprised if Netflix is seeing the trickle down effect of consumers not spending as much, maybe people cutting back a little bit because Taylor Swift was an extremely expensive ticket. So maybe that's exactly what we're seeing, some of this. But pumping into the earnings tomorrow, 100%, I'm not surprised by this. But again, when I look at this thing on the macro, we have to keep in mind that this is nothing but a big ABC correction, right? Again, there's waves within waves, and that's, I can go on all day about that inception like bullshit. I explained this last week, but this is a massive wave that we got down, right? We got a wave going up, filled the gap that was right here. I mean, we still got 5 waves to come down if this holds accurate. And again, where are we on the weekly? We're 199 on the overbought on the stochastic RSI. On the monthly, we're 198. And if we look on the daily too, we just got into the overbought territory. We're 85 and 76. So wait till this gets to about 100 or so. Wouldn't be surprised if that even pushes up. Even if the earnings aren't as great, I wouldn't be surprised if idiots are still buying this thing. It's a little bit of a deal. Netflix has been killing it with the new shows. A lot of people on Netflix getting live sports soon. I've honestly, last time I was bullish on Netflix might have been when they got the Nintendo Wii channel. That was back in like 2008, or 2010. But I don't watch Netflix at all. I still have it, so maybe I should cancel it. So anyone who's short in the stock could benefit. But yeah, that's what I'm saying with Netflix. Nothing too crazy, but filling that gap, I'm not surprised by the price action we're seeing right now.
Yeah, getting live sports would obviously be very bullish for them. I just don't.
How many subscriptions can someone have too? That's the one other thing.
Right, like
I might as well go back to cable, right?
Yeah. Cutting the cord was a thing, and now it's like you got Paramount, you got Peacock, you got Hulu, you got Apple TV, you got YouTube TV. Peacock fucked you. What happened? You got fucked by Peacock.
I did. Apparently, feathers went out and everything. No, but
usually you got paid double for that.
Yeah, triple now. Apparently, Xfinity customers don't get free Peacock anymore. I loved free Peacock, but
I got rid of Xfinity earlier this year, and we switched over to streaming stuff, and now it's just like, okay, now we need 18 streaming ones.
Yeah, exactly. You gotta, I don't know, man. There's too many streaming sites, and I think everyone's, they're cracking this a good point. I don't know anyone that has canceled because of the password thing. It's a good point too. Again, it's gonna get to the point though where people are just like, am I really using this? Do I need Netflix as much as I like Hulu or all this other bullshit? Maybe Peacock is your thing.
I will say Netflix has added some really good movies lately. They put Jumanji, the original Jumanji, back up there. Watched that the other night. They put Hook back up there. Another great one. Maybe it's just maybe they just the Robin Williams streaming service is what I really need. But yeah, like the live sports thing, it's interesting. Like you have NFL has a deal. Apple's doing it with MLS and MLB. You have Amazon working on some deals with the NFL. Still no like one streaming service has kind of laid claim to the NBA. I don't know if that's really ever going to be a thing, but yeah, I haven't really heard much about that, Ace. So I can't tell you what I think there, but it could absolutely do a lot if that announcement did come out.
Yeah. Other thing I want to take a look at was the chart for Lockheed Martin. From what I saw, they had pretty good earnings today. And obviously, Lockheed Martin is military, aviation, bombs, building all that shit. They have absolutely had a pretty good run up since obviously the invasion of Ukraine. But if we look at, I'm just going to show the monthly real quick. It's a pretty insane chart, right? Let's go from 2020.
We're not seeing it right now.
Oh no, shit! I'm stupid. I forgot. You're just looking at my face. Sorry about that. Yeah, this is Lockheed Martin. We're looking at the chart. This is on the monthly. You can see that the stochastic RSI is coming down, but it's obviously still in a pretty good area. I'm trying to find the COVID low. COVID low was back here. It's down here, wick down to 268, and then it found itself right around 326. Currently, it's at 457, but it had a pretty good return today, I believe. I thought they beat expectations, but if we look at what we're seeing today, it's down about 2.59%. If we look on the hourly, we can even see a worse chart. Yeah, there it is. It's on the wicked all the way up to 479. As soon as it got to 479, it came down to 454. So that's a pretty big jump. And, is it bullish in any way? Does it have to come down a little bit more? Maybe. But I don't know if Lockheed Martin will see maybe as bad of if we're right about the recession, everything coming down, and everything's due for a correction. I wonder how well this one will hold up given everything that's going on in the world right now. So that's why I was really interested in seeing how this is performing, because again, there's always defensive stocks that maybe are beneficial when things get rough. It seems like this one's been going up only for a long time. And especially in the past, 2 years, it's been doing pretty well. So seeing this right here, this little pullback today, this may be giving you some, yeah, exactly, dude. They got to make weapons. Again, it really depends on how far this thing goes, how long it drags out. But for the most part, I feel like government contracts and stuff like this tend to do pretty well, despite there being any type of recession or anything like that.
Okay. Let's get into the crypto talk a little bit. I know that there's been some discussion once again around Binance financing rates, something that you were ahead of people on back in April. Let's kind of take a quick look at BNB, and we can see if there are any other tokens you want to, it's kind of a boring day for the big crypto tokens. We're seeing alts get dragged down, even further. So what are you seeing here? I'm curious if we could also just take a quick look at what the USDT dominance is looking like, with how much, we've seen Bitcoin dominance is kind of flat, price is down a little bit. So interested in all of that and how it's playing out at the moment.
Yeah, so past few days, I mean, I'm sure everyone who has got a Coinbase account has gotten the alerts from CoinDesk saying that, Binance futures for BNB have been extremely negative. And again, we always talk about negative funding rates, meaning that people who are shorting this are willing to pay people who are going long in order to keep their positions open. I don't necessarily think that the funding rate was that negative. I've seen, again, back in April, you can literally go back and to April and just type in BNB and Twitter, and you can see that the only people that were talking bad about BNB funding rates was just me. It was like I sent out 3 or 4 tweets. No one was saying a single thing. Now CoinDesk and everyone's trying to get on top of it. Are they trying to get ahead of something? I don't know. For me, it's more or less that I'm looking at the chart itself that looks pretty crappy. So obviously we're in a parallel channel. We just broke from a larger parallel channel, and I could zoom out of this. You see it right there. But we got rejected at that 260 level up here back on Friday night. So that's right over here. 261, I believe, was the height. And I was obviously doing the math on this and from what I could. And I was like, all right, 1, 2, 3, 4, and you could say 5 down here. My only thing was I'm looking for this 3-wave correction, which would be somewhere around here to the point where maybe we test this midline again. We're at 240.2. We went all the way down today to 238.3. And I think that we are going to get some type of weak correction. So maybe it's here. Maybe it was here, and then we're just waiting for this last C leg up before we get another 5 waves down. I do anticipate us to break to the bottom of this channel, if not break the channel entirely. So I'm just keeping an eye on that. But again, there is some negative funding rates that are currently going on. Right now it's at 0. So obviously a lot of the FUD that people are putting out there is gone. But I do want to entertain the FUD a little bit because there's a lot of things that we have to keep an eye on. For one, if we look, I'm going to jump onto USDT, USD pair on Binance.us. You can see that this is what the chart's been looking like for the past, few weeks. If we look in the daily, it's been pretty bad here on USDT on Binance. And a lot of this is just liquidity issues. I don't think that, without USD being on there, it's gonna do any it's not going to do you any favors. Everything's obviously going to be taking a hit. There's not as much liquidity, I think, on Binance US exchange right now. That's why we're also seeing Bitcoin, trade relatively lower on that as opposed to other, trading pairs on even Binance International. So seeing this, I'm not too surprised by what's going on there. But what could this mean? Could there be potentially something that's going to happen with Binance US? Maybe it's the SEC's coming to crack down on it. Maybe. The other thing that I would keep an eye on is maybe True USD. I was talking about that stable coin, and I do want to share here, let me pull this up real quick. I want to share True USD's website because this is kind of interesting. Yes, leave site. This is their homepage. I think, and again, I'm saying for a company that's got, I think billions of dollars in the reserves, it's a pretty shitty website, right? I found out that they are owned by a company called Archblock, and they are based in San Francisco, and they're the ones who issue the token. So really interesting to see if maybe the SEC comes down on this token issuer. They did so with Paxos for BUSD, but yeah, this doesn't seem super legit in my opinion. And again, this is the token that Binance is using for Binance International. Like if I go to company, like this is, I feel like I'm back in like 2006, 2007 on like Yahoo.
What is that?
It's their history, but it's but it just I mean, it just doesn't look like a legit site, right? It's obviously very slow. I mean, I'm gonna pull up. Give me what has a better site? Let's go to Harmony.
That is. Ace is putting it lightly. Sus AF. I mean, that looks absolutely terrible.
Right, I completely agree. And pull up Harmony One's website. Obviously, it's a little bit better, but this is at least there's like videos and shit like that on this website. With the other one, it's like absolutely insane. Maybe it wasn't the best example, but it's something to keep an eye on. I'm not saying that I'm not going to be a FUD rucker and just spread FUD as much as I possibly can right now about Binance because I don't want people to get into a position at the wrong time. I think that's something to keep an eye on. That's why I was kind of getting upset by obviously CoinDesk posting stuff like that because I was like, funding rates aren't that bad. So keep an eye on that. Oh damn, I hate when this does this. I gotta stop sharing for a second. But yeah, Binance right now, I'm not too concerned with. I think we have to push up a little bit first before we can push down further. I do think we're gonna break from this channel. I do think that people know something that most people don't. So I'm definitely obviously still holding my positions. I had a little bit this morning, just not much, just few coins. It's my only position that's open, and I'm just trying to add it to the point where my liquidation level is obviously raised now, just to be defensive. But Binance right now, I think it is going to break from this parallel channel that's in. I'm expecting 5 waves once we finish this 3-wave correction, and then yeah, maybe maybe we get to a point where we're below that 210 level. 210 level, again, we've talked about, that's not a great level. That's pretty much where it's going to break from. I don't know where it went on the chart, but add that here, so we got it. Anything below here, probably going to go down to 145, 150, and below 145, 150, you're going to be at $45. But again, let things play out. These things do tend to take time to break from the channel, and we have to keep an eye on Bitcoin. Let's take a look at Bitcoin real quick before we get into some of the other ones. And we're going to look at USDT dominance as well. But Bitcoin has been doing some weird shit, right? We can't deny it. I think this range right here, if we're just looking at this yellow box, is 100% distribution. We're just trying to get offload as much Bitcoin as we possibly can. Makes sense to me. It looks like distribution. Obviously, you have your peaks, you have some of your tests within it. At some point it is going to break down. However, my main concern is that Bitcoin right now is obviously in weird flux where this is distribution. And I think a lot of people realize that it is distribution. And we've even seen a lot of liquidations by pushing the price up higher for people who have been shorting. We saw that with XRP. So we got to be careful, obviously, with opening any short positions. And I'm not shorting Bitcoin. I'm I'm using it as a metric to scale into other shorts because I'm waiting for Bitcoin dominance to shoot up again. But we can see that we're on the daily just trading on this parallel channel to the downside, right? This 50 moving average is climbing up. It's honestly getting closer each day. I think we are going to kiss it at some point. That might be the point where we break out of this, because at the end of the day, we're still putting in, these within a channel. Do I think it's a great channel? No, not at all. Maybe we break from it and it goes up, and that's, a test up here. It really depends on where the liquidation levels are. We still got a massive gap to fill down here. And for Bitcoin dominance, if we take a look at that right now, we're still relatively underneath the 50 moving average on the daily. This is good, though. We haven't really lost underneath it, so we're still staying in that range. I think that's a good sign. I think that is consolidation for the most part. We've seen that we consolidated below for a period of time here, and then we broke to the upside. I think this is only a matter of time before we start to see some price appreciation, or I guess percentage appreciation for Bitcoin dominance. But the things that we have to keep in mind are obviously things that are going to take away from it. XRP dominance is extremely high right now. We can see that it shot up from 2.15% all the way to 4%, and now to currently 3.45%. And that's based off of the SEC news. And then people started aping into XRP, probably sold some Bitcoin off to buy some XRP or just swapped it. And that's definitely taken away about 2 percentage points from Bitcoin's dominance. So we were at 52%. Now we're at 50. This thing's up roughly about 2%, maybe some in USDT. And then you wanted to take a look at USDT as well.
Yeah, just real quick.
Yeah, absolutely. So we can see that we're at 7.23. Obviously, on the daily, we are getting close to a death cross. Do we get there? I don't know. We might have to see if there is a sell-off. If there is a sell-off, obviously, this is going to go up. Crisis might be averted. If we look on the weekly, we're doing okay. We're above the 50 moving average, in my opinion. That's still a good thing. Obviously, the 200's down here. In some ways, this is kind of what we have to keep an eye on. As long as you're above these two, I think that you're good. Maybe if we start to see some of the alt sell off, then this is going to increase. Maybe Bitcoin is the one that goes up. Maybe this goes down. We're going to have to keep an eye on it. But for right now, the support levels for USDT look pretty good to me for their dominance over the entire crypto market. I think this and Bitcoin dominance are obviously working in conjunction. They can, I'm not too worried if this goes up and Bitcoin dominance goes down, because at the end of the day, I know this is going to flow back into Bitcoin. My main concern right now is XRP dominance, because this thing is just, on a rocket. I think XRP, if we look at it as a whole, I think that's going to be a really interesting one to keep an eye on going into the, not using that Binance, go to KuCoin, even though it's not even legal in the US anymore. Yeah, here it is. Use the KuCoin for exchange for seeing what it's doing right now. This is on the weekly. Obviously, we broke above this, so we got a weekly close outside of that channel that it was trading in. But if we look on, let's go to the hourly, we can see that we broke out of this stupid candle up, and then we're in a parallel channel, right? And we're looking probably to go up to maybe 82 cents again. That wouldn't be surprised if we find some rejection there and we have to come back down. But this is a parallel channel. I think it is going to break to the downside. I do think that we are going to close the monthly. If we do close, I won't say we will. I think that if we do close the monthly in this parallel channel, all bets are off for it going. I think it has to go down before it goes up, because again, if we look at the weekly chart, it kind of rebounded extremely fast, right? It was down here, and then next thing you know, it's back up here at 73. So this week it's going to be overbought on the weekly. If we look at the monthly real quick, this thing's completely overbought. I'm not gonna fool anyone with this bullshit. XRP, I think, is a great asset. I definitely want to be buying some, but here's the thing. I don't buy in the FOMO. I don't like exactly how this price shot up at all. And I'm not going to be afraid to tell anyone, even when something is 81 cents, 94 cents, that it's going to 17 cents, maybe 22 cents in that range. I honestly believe that. I think that's where we need to correct to. I think that we are seeing, in some ways, probably a huge scam pump. And, we got to get to a place where we're going to see maybe some price adjustment. And again, bad thing about XRP when it does pump, is what comes after. So, we pumped here back in April of 2021, shot up to about $1.96. Next 2 months, next 3 months, we're down here at, 50 cents, right? We have to keep an eye on stuff like that. That's in a bull market too. So obviously that happens.
Kevin, I feel like you're a few more bullish or bearish weeks or months away, like during this bull market, from people starting to call you Chicken Little, like straight up out of The Big Short, like Ryan Gosling's, everyone like, I'll just call me Chicken Little. I'm saying the sky's falling. Like that's where I think we're heading right now. That you're wrong about it, but like,
no, I've definitely been early. I know that. It's it's just, I know I don't have good news to say, because I think, again, I want people to be prepared for what's coming. I don't necessarily want people to be, thinking that we're in a bull market. This is anything from a bull market, in my opinion. I think that if XRP absolutely dumps, that means Bitcoin dominance is just going to fly straight up. So maybe if we drop from 76 cents down to 15 cents, imagine what that does to the market cap, what that does to the percentage. That's just going to flow into USDT. Maybe people are like, hey, maybe Bitcoin's a safer bet than XRP right now. I don't know. I bought the top and I need to get out of this position. I need to make money. So that's something I'm definitely keeping an eye on. So in terms of crypto, that's what I'm seeing. I think that XRP dominance is just as important as Bitcoin dominance right now, just because it's taken so much away from it. Do I think that there is a bit of a room for a push to the upside? Maybe. I want to take a look at one last thing. This is total 3. We looked at it yesterday, but I just want to see how this is progressing. We can see that monthly, it doesn't look that great, but again, on the daily and the weekly, this thing is pretty frothy, right? Back in the parallel channel, we found resistance on the 200 EMA. We're going down to test the 50 moving average. That's at 337 billion, 338 billion. If we look on the weekly, how does that look? We're getting close to overbought, and we already got rejected from the 200 EMA. Maybe we test that again. I don't think so. I think we got the top of this channel, and we can see the volumes are decreasing going into this week. I think that we are going to see, a big altcoin exodus coming at some point. When, I don't know. Chicken Little says the sky's falling. It's going to fall at some point. But right now we're just getting little raindrops here and there in the charts. But yeah, that's all I pretty much got for crypto. Again, XRP dominance is the most important thing in my opinion. Watch out for the FUD. I think that there is a move coming, and maybe that is to the downside. But, a lot of the charts on the macro seem like the structures are in positions to break. And once they do break, it's likely that the origin will be tested. So obviously the origin of this is at 300 billion. I think we'll be under 300 billion by the point that is tested, though.
Okay. That is where we're going to wrap it up for today. Appreciate everybody for watching. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place. Looking ahead to Tesla and Netflix earnings after the close of the markets. Should be some interesting after hours movement. If you have not yet, do us a favor, hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, drop a comment, share us out on social media. All of those things are really helpful to us. We really appreciate it. Ace, Randy, thank you again for being here. You guys are the best. Have an awesome rest of your day, everybody. We will see you next time.
Take care, everyone.